Alright, so this is gonna be episode 3 of Team Profiles for Set G. This is probably gonna be the second last episode for this format, just to let you know. So hope you've enjoyed the series, and yeah. So this episode is gonna be about Slowbro, and so gonna just go over kind of Slowbro's role in the format and um, sort of demystify Slowbro's very mystified image in VGC. All right, because yeah, once I get through this explanation, you're probably going to be very surprised as to kind of Slowbro's absence in modern Pokemon VGC. All right, so yeah. So Slowbro needs no introduction if you're familiar with Pokemon. It's introduced in Generation 1 um, as part of the first 151 Pokemon, right? And they really did not fail to disappoint. Right? I mean, they didn't really fail to impress players with this Pokemon because if you're familiar with Pokemon throughout the formats that Slowbro has been a part of, you're very familiar with its notoriety as being very notorious for creating very unpleasant board states. And so this is no mistake, right? Slowbro is quite a formidable Pokemon. So if you're familiar with Slowbro's stats, know that it has very good stat line across the board until you get to its speed, right? So Slowbro has like almost 100 HP, base HP, 100 special attack, 110 defense, 80 special defense, and a pretty sizable attack stat too. Not like you're gonna run at attack, but um yeah. It's really strong across the board, but its speed is where it falls short. Has like 30 base speed or something like that. So this is where the current Pokemon gets very tricky, right? Because, formats have always been dominated by speed. And so as a result, Pokemon that really haven't been able to stand up against, Pokemon with like 130 base speed or stuff like that haven't really been the subject of uh much analysis, right? Um yeah, which is it's not to get too much into it, but um it's not necessarily that, Pokemon were not meant to be, as devastating as something like a Miraidon, for example. It's just that um you have to understand sort of how RPGs work, basically. Understand that, Pokemon is an RPG, right? And so as a result, um, there are going to be different classes of Pokemon, or characters rather, that play a certain way as a result of what they have to offer, basically, right? So, yeah. So the reason why Slowbro is so slow, right, is because it's basically like basically once it's set up its board state, its speed's not going to matter because you're not going to really be able to do much into it and its team, right? Like it has probably it has the best defensive meta type in, right? At water, and then it has the best um offensive uh carry type in psychic, right? And so it's like like usage aside, this Pokemon is very devastating, right? And no amount of like neglect is going to change that, right? So yeah, this is gonna help kind of alleviate sort of the absence that Slowbro's had in VGC. So hope you enjoy, right? So all that aside, you notice that this team only has 4 Pokemon on it, right? And so um I'm just gonna get into the team explanation and then I'll explain why this team has 4 Pokemon on it. So Slowbro, right? This is a Water Terra Slowbro with leftovers as 252 special attack, 132 HP, 124 defense, modest nature, as regenerated, right? So it has Psychic, Helping Hand, Calm Mind, Scald, right? So this is going to be your standard Slowbro, right? So Slowbro is a mid-range Pokemon, right? And is definitely created more equal than other mid-range Pokemon. Um, it is just such a powerhouse in terms of what it can accomplish, right? And so I don't want to get too much into it. I'll explain kind of more after I'm done explaining the team, but um, for this video, I just want to make standard Slowbro, right? Because Slowbro hasn't even been touched in VGC, so there's no point in trying to create some sort of offhanded, yeah, right? So, yeah, so this is just your standard Slowbro, right? Damage mods, Calm Mind, and Helping Hand, and then you have your stat boost, right? So, second core slot is Talonflame, the Flying Terra Talonflame with Clear Amulet, as Flare Blitz, Dual Wing Beat, Tailwind, and Defog, right? Adamant Nature, 252 attack, 252 speed with Gale Wings, right? So basically, this is going to be your lead, right? So can break, you know, speed discrepancies, right? And it can break terrain setup with defog, with priority defog, and yeah. So then it has stat moves, right? And covers both uh grass types and a lot of like defensive types like steel, stuff like that, right? Right. So second core slot is Mamoswine, so Ground Terra, Solvis Mamoswine. It's gonna be your partner besides Talonflame. Adamant Nature, 252 attack, 132 HP, 124 special defense. With Thick Fat, it has Ice Cold Crash, Ice Shard, Earthquake, and Stomp and Tantrum. Alright, so right, so if you played a lot of Set H, kind of familiar with like Garchomp Talonflame leads, right? And as I covered in I think it was episode 9, um, I covered Garchomp and kind of explained that Garchomp, as powerful as it is, it's not really a Pokemon that um you're not gonna be able to devastate people with, right? It has a very straightforward win condition that's very easy to out, right? So yeah, so this is kind of not necessarily, I wouldn't even call it a variation, right? This is sort of um this is like a more standard way of playing Talonflame, right? Put beside a Pokemon that has a lot of coverage options. Lead in for a very strong Pokemon that needs compensation, right? In areas, certain areas, right? And in this case, Talonflame is compensating for Slowbro's grass weakness, right? So, yeah, right. And then Mamoswine, on the other hand, would be covering for Slowbro's electric weakness, right? That's kind of the idea of these leads, right? And they have strong priority moves and good spread moves and good support moves, right? And it's gonna really take a lot, right? This is a really good board, right? That you want to lead with, right? There's not really a lot of stuff that can lead into this and really give Slowbro a hard time after taking these guys down, right? Urshifu would be like the first thing that comes to mind. I'd be able to one shot Mamoswine with a physical move, um, and maybe Rillaboom, right, with a wood hammer. And so yeah, as you can see, Talonflame covers for that Mamoswine, those weaknesses that Mamoswine has, right? And then Talonflame would be usually generally weak to like a rock slide or some sort of like electric move, right? And you're either trading or you can get like a tailwind board set up and you can just out tempo the electric Pokemon and kill it with a earthquake or champion tantrum, right? So your bases are basically covered for your lead, basically, right? So restricted, this is set G. This is Dragon Terra, Origin Form Dialga, right? Admin Crystal, Modest Nature, 252 special attack, 252 HP. And it has Draco Meteor, Earth Power, Fire Blast, and Flash Cannon, right? And it has Telepathy, right? So again, right? Talonflame's main weaknesses are going to be like uh, rock moves, electric moves, and like rock moves, electric moves, and water moves, right? And also Mamoswine is pretty susceptible to water moves too, right? So dragon having a dragon restricted, right, is really good um as a way to pivot in, right? Especially with Talonflame being able to set up a tailwind for it, gives you a good tempo and you can just set up well for Slowbro to come in, basically, right? So yeah. Um so Slowbro, right? Again, right, I've covered um it's weak to electric grass, right? Generally those are gonna be the things that are gonna be covering the most. Those are gonna be like the highest base power stab moves that you're gonna be getting hit with, right? Thunders, thunderbolts, right? Wood hammer. And so um and those are also like the special moves that you're gonna be getting hit with, right? Um so basically, and those are not on, and also those are going to be like the moves that are going to be the easiest to get off to threaten your Slowbro, right? So basically, the idea is that your leads and your restricted are going to be able to take care of those Pokemon, right? Whittle them down so that they can't just press a stab move into Slowbro and take them out, right? And so that's basically what you're trying to go for with this setup, right? And then Slowbro, if it has to face off against those Pokemon, right, has the helping hand so that they try to, pick off the Slowbro slot. You can go helping hand and a strong stab move into that slot and, take it out, trade, basically, right? Especially, those typings are generally going to be the main carries for your team, right? Ghost, Dark, Electric, Grass, right? And so, yeah, those Pokemon generally do not have such a devastating stat line like Slowbro does. So as a result, um, yeah, you're not going to be put in a situation where, oh, I'm just getting stat check, basically, right? If you're familiar with that term, stat checking, from like, generally like RPGs and MOBAs are generally where that term is used, right? Where you're basically just in a toe to toe situation, but because they have a better stat line, you just lose, right? Generally, Slowbro's not going to get stat checked, and so that's kind of its edge, right? High HP, very solid defenses. It's not going to be something that's going to get one shot, right? And then top it off with a leftovers and a regenerator. You can even just lead this thing, take a big hit, and then retreat and heal a third of your health, right? So right, so your bases are basically covered with this team, right? So that's basically why um for the start of this video I just wanted to cover it with 4 Pokemon because there's not really anything that you need else that you're missing, right? Like Slowbro has the tools where it's like it's you could tinker with it, right? And you could come up with so many variations that like it would be hard to ignore, if not impossible to ignore it going into a big event, right? Um, so this is basically the team that like, or the archetype rather, that Pokemon designed to be the 60%, meta share team, right? Where 60% of the core of this team, right, is being used on people's team, right? So yeah, like there's not really much that you need to be putting on this team where it's like, oh, this team's not gonna work, without Rhyperior, right? This team's not gonna work without Gyarados, you know. This team's not gonna work without like a wide guard, right? This team has its bases covered, right? So you could basically just put anything you want into the slots. That's reasonable, of course, right? You can go like Rotom, Gholdengo, right? You can go like Meowscarada, Tinkaton, right? Whatever the meta calls for, right? So that's generally kind of the design that Slowbro has in VGC, right? Slowbro has gotten a lot of support over formats, right? With single target, better single target, a water move and Scald, um, a regenerator, right? In Gen 6 it got the Mega Evolution. Um it's something that has not been neglected by Pokemon. So it's kind of ironic that the VGC community in modern Pokemon hasn't really given it the time of day, right? So yeah, right? Like um so yeah. Uh so if I were to kind of, put 2 Pokemon into the pivot slots, um for set G, probably the like Meowscarada for starters. Um because um Meowscarada doesn't really have a good type in, but that's compensated by Flower Trick, right? And its high speed. So, um, yeah, given something like Meowscarada a Focus Sash, um, would be a good bet for this team to pick off, slots with physical heavy Pokemon, especially considering your leads are both physical Pokemon. And then comboing it with Tailwind, Meowscarada is probably going to be the best Pokemon on the board, right? And then I'd probably put something a like probably something like an DD female, a DD male rather. Something like E Ghost Moose and has a good spread attack because his team doesn't really have good spread moves except for Earthquake. So yeah, that'd be something else. That'd probably be pretty good. Or something like an Electivire, right? Something that you can put beside the Slowbro, to redirect electric moves, right? Especially from like Miraidon. Miraidon's not killing this thing with Draco Meteor. It's not killing it with Dazzling Gleam. So being able to just go like 2 Calm Minds, and then like break the terrain, you're definitely gonna eat an electric there at +2, right? So yeah, right. That's probably what I would go for. So yeah, you can see how kind of powerful this team is in this format, right? So yeah, um, yeah, that's Slowbro, right? Um, so um, Trying to do some housekeeping. Set I has been announced for May, so it's good that this series is wrapping up after one more video. Um, and so I don't really expect much from Set I, considering um, like how Set G Part 2 has kind of played out. So yeah, uh, besides just kind of recovering uh, pseudo legendaries and then like main Pokemon for the format, uh, probably gonna want to do some restricted combos, and besides that, yeah, definitely just gonna do a lot of testing for it because um, comparison to like compared to like the 2 restricted format, which I think was Series 14 for Sword and Shield. Um, it's not like something like Dynamax, right, where you know you could have like 2 restrictors on the board, and the board state is just so hard to break because they can just set up like a max guard, and then the other restricted is just picking off your slots, right? This is much different, right? So um, it's gonna be um, yeah, sucks, and also being like technically the second or third game in modern Pokemon, right? Don't expect a lot of innovation coming out from Sedai. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna recover the two legendaries and their place in Set I, kind of um, how they get stronger or weaker with 2 restricteds rather than one, and really going to try to highlight restricteds um, place in the format and sort of really try to help people understand kind of the fact that restricteds are not as devastating as people may think them to be, right? If you want to take something like Smogon, right, where they have like these fan-made formats where you can play like 6 restricteds on your team, um, that's all well and good, but generally you're not going to be losing because restricteds are strong. You're losing because you just don't have a good understanding of the format, and that you're basically just getting stat checked, basically, right? Not to mention it's singles, right? So a restricted versus anything is going to get stat checked, right? It doesn't matter if it's Slowbro, Regice, doesn't matter, right? So yeah, it seems like restricted are so powerful because uh Uber's singles said so, right? It's like singles is not really a metric for anything, quite frankly, because um, RPGs. If you understand anything about RPGs, you understand that you're never fighting by yourself, right? As a rule, right? You either have some sort of interaction that you can use to offset the discrepancy in stats, or you're fighting a team and you have, classes, right? You have, your carry, you have your healer, or enchanter, you have your defender, right? And then, you have your like marksman class or whatever you want to call it, right? So yeah, singles is not really a metric for anything, quite frankly. So yeah, it's fun and all that to explore, but um, it's really mystified, kind of restricted, right? So yeah, gonna really try to cover that in great detail, and yeah, really shed some light on it. So yeah, this is Slowbro. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the next video.